Welcome to our first project in Power BI Desktop. In this video, we will get data, work on that data, and finally create a visualization, a world map to be more precise. In case you're not sure what you can see right here, just take a look at this video. Otherwise, just stay here and take a look at our first project now. So this is the starting screen that we can see when we open Power BI Desktop. The important button is that Get Data button right here. If we click that, then this menu opens. And as you can see, you can connect Power BI Desktop to a lot of different sources. Well, actually, we don't have any sources at the moment, right? So a really good source could be if we simply go to Other, right here, and then double-click on Web, like this. Now you can see that we only need a URL with data in it, of course, and as soon as we got that, we can simply import the data or actually connect Power BI Desktop to this data on this web page. Now let's first find a web page with some data in it. So this is the table that I would like to visualize in Power BI Desktop. We simply have data for 30 cities regarding the passengers at the corresponding airports. Now, you can find the link to that page, of course, down there in the video description. So what we have to do right now is we simply have to copy the URL up here, like this. Now go back to Power BI Desktop and simply paste the URL right here. Then we click OK and wait a few seconds, of course. And now this navigator opens. This navigator allows us to specify what data we want to connect Power BI Desktop to. So this means if we simply click on to document right here, then we see that we probably selected the wrong data at the moment. The good thing is we can simply change to the web view up here. And if you now scroll down a little bit, like this, then we can see that table 0 is the table that we want to connect Power BI Desktop to. If we now simply tick that box right here, which is then also ticked in this left part, and switch back to the table view up here, then you can see that generally, yes, we have the right data. But you can also see that there is a lot of information in it at the moment, which we don't actually need. And this is the reason why we have to decide between load and edit at the moment. Because the difference is as follows. If we press load down here now, then this data will be automatically loaded into our real data model. If we press edit, then we will go to the query editor. This is kind of a separate tool inside of Power BI Desktop that allows you to prepare your data. So you can, for instance, delete rows which include information that you don't need. As soon as you finished your work in that query editor, then you load that data into the real data model. And this is really important because if you really clean your data in a good way, this means, for example, you get rid of all the unrequired information, then you only load the important data into the data model, and by that your data model becomes smaller and more efficient because it consumes less memory. This is the reason why we now select edit right here, like this. And now we are in this query editor, so in this data preparation tool. And in the center, you can see the information that we connected Power BI Desktop to now. So if we just scroll around right here, so we can scroll to the right, for example, to see all the columns. We can also scroll down if we want to and see the last row, for example. Well, then we see that we have some work to do. The first thing we have to do is we should get rid of those first 5 rows. Because these rows include information, well, that we don't need. But if we look into row number 6 and scroll to the right, then we can see that this total value right here, this is something that we should keep. And that's the reason why we only delete row 1 to 5. So to delete rows in Power BI Desktop, you can simply go to the Home ribbon, which you can find up here. And now in this Reduce Rows area right here, you can click onto Remove Rows. And in our case, we want to start removing rows from the top. So we simply press Remove Top Rows, like this. And now we said that we want to delete the first 5 rows. So we simply type 5 and press OK. And you can see that we immediately deleted the first 5 rows of all the columns, of course. But we now have this new first row. And this row includes information that we don't want to delete. Because what we actually want is, we want to have this total right here as the column name. So we could of course delete that row and simply rename the column. This is one way. But the more easy way is to simply go again to the home ribbon, right here, and now select this use first row as headers option. If we click that, then you can see that we now renamed that column to total. And the first row is of course gone, which is totally correct at the moment for us. Now, another thing we should do is we should scroll down to the last row, because as far as I remember, yes, this information, this is also not required. And as we already know how this works, well, we can simply do that quickly by going to the home ribbon again, where we still are. Now go to remove rows right here, press that, and now don't select the top rows, but the bottom rows, like this, and only select one row. Now we press OK again. And as you can see, now the last row is also deleted. This is fine. Now we talked about the rows, but I think it's also time to take a look at the columns now. And to be honest, I don't think we need all the columns we have right here. If we scroll to the left, like this, column 1 and column 2, I don't think that's required. The same thing is true if we scroll to the right, like this. Well, we don't need this column and that column. So basically, we only need this column and this total column. Now, to delete these columns, we have now multiple options. But a really easy option is to simply go again to the home ribbon. Now go to choose columns right here. Press that. Select choose columns again, like this. And now simply select the columns that we want to keep. Well, in our case, we can first unselect all of the columns. And now only select this one and the total column. So the two columns that we want to keep. Now we press OK down here. And as you can see, I now cannot scroll to the left and to the right anymore because we only have these two columns left. This was also quite easy, right? So let's now take a look at the column name maybe. The column name in this case, well, I don't think this is a good name, so we should rename that to city. Well, to do this, we simply double click onto the column, write city, and press enter. Now we renamed that column. This is also nice. But I don't think we are done with the columns yet. There are two more things that I would like to change. The first thing is, I would like to get rid of all the information after the comma, because we have the city right here, which is enough, and I don't need that country information afterwards. To do this, we again have a great function in Power BI Desktop. And this function can simply be found in the transform ribbon, right here. Now we go to the extract option right here. And if we click onto that, we can now specify what kind of information we want to extract from the column that we selected. In our case, we would like to keep all the information that is left to a specific delimiter. In our case, the delimiter is this comma right here. Well, so we can simply select the text before delimiter option, like this. Now define the delimiter, which is the comma in our case, like that. And if we now press OK, well, then you can see that we only have the city names now in our column. So the country information is gone. Again, this was really easy, right? Now let's take a look at the second column, this total column right here. What I don't like right here is that we have the spaces between the different numbers. I would also like to change that. Well, to change this, we simply have to go back to the home ribbon, right here, and now select the replace value option right there. If we click onto that, then we simply have to specify which value we want to find. In our case, we actually only want to find a space, so I press space right now on the keyboard, and replace it with, well, nothing, because then the space is gone, and then we have the number the way we want it to be. So we typed space right here, and can now press OK. And again, as you can see, this perfectly worked, and now we're actually done with our two columns. So we now have the information about the city and the corresponding passengers. Well, one last thing is maybe there that we should change. This is the formatting of that second column right here. At the moment, this is formatted as text, and you can see that easily by this ABC symbol up here. And if we click onto that, then you can see that ABC, well, this is text. So maybe it makes more sense to change that formatting from text to a decimal number, for example, like this. And as you can see, now this ABC changed to 1, 2. So we got that. We now worked on the rows, worked on the columns, and changed the formatting. And we only needed these simple steps for that. Pretty awesome, right? And now we also finished our work in this query editor, so in this data preparation step. This means that we are now ready to finally load the data we have right here into our real data model. So we need to leave that query editor, and we can do this by going to the home ribbon, where we still are, and now press onto close and apply right here. And now we are in the data model. You can see the interface is different and also the functions are. But we will not talk about that in detail right now. The only thing you have to know is that we left this query editor and we are now in the actual data model. At the moment we are in the so-called report view. This is the view where we will create our visualization in a few seconds. But first I want to show you something else. Because we can change from this report view that we selected right here to the data view, which is the second option right there. If we click onto that, then you can see our two columns, or actually our whole table that we imported into that data model. And we need to adjust one important thing before we create our chart. This first column, this city right here, is text at the moment. So Power BI doesn't know that we have cities in here. And as I would like to create a world map, it might be important that Power BI is aware of the fact that these are cities. To make sure that Power BI knows this, we simply have to select the column, which we already did. Now go to the modeling ribbon up here, and now change the data category. So we simply click onto that, and at the moment we have that uncategorized category, which is not true. Because if you look at the second option right here, city, then this is the right option for our data we have right here. So if we click onto city, then we don't see that it changed, right? The only thing we see is that symbol right here. So apparently, some kind of geographical information is now available in a data model. Let's see now if this works by creating our visualization. And to do this, we simply have to go to the report view right here and now create our visualization. As I said, I would like to create a world map. And to create something like this, you simply go to that visualizations column right here and now select that symbol right here, map. If we click onto that, then we see this frame right here. This is actually the area our chart will be displayed in as soon as we load some data into it, of course. At the moment we don't have data, so we can simply change the size of our future chart by clicking right here and dragging it right there, for example. Well, and now we need to get the data into that visualization. And to do this, we can simply go to this fields column right here. Now select the city, for example, and drag it to the location area right here, like this. Now we see the different cities that we have. So there's 30 cities on the world map. But we didn't load the data, so the actual passenger amount, into our visualization. Well, to do this, we can simply drag and drop this total column right here, down here into this size area, like this. And now you can see that the size of these bubbles changed, depending on the passenger amount. But you might have a problem with identifying the different cities. You can also change that quickly in Power BI Desktop. The only thing you have to do is you have to go to this formatting area right here. If we click right there and simply add the category labels right here, like this, then you can see that we now have the names of all the cities that we have in our data. But this is too much information, right? So maybe we should apply a filter as a last step and only display the top 5 cities, for example. This can also be done quite easily. We only need to go back to our fields area right here. Now scroll down a little bit. And here in this filters area, we can now simply, filter our data. So we click onto city right here. Change the filter type from basic filtering to top N. Maybe scroll down a little bit. And now define which items should be presented. In our case, I would say we select the top 5 cities, for example. And now we have to decide, the top 5 cities by what? And by what? This is the passenger amount right here. So we drag that into this field right here, like this, and press apply filter, like that. And if we now unselect the visualization, you can see that we now have a world map visualization with different bubbles with different sizes, depending on the passenger amount of the top 5 cities in our data. And this is it. This was our first project. We connected Power BI Desktop to data, cleaned that data, loaded that data into the data model, and created that visualization with those few steps only. I think this is pretty great. So if you want to know more about Power BI Desktop now, I would be really happy to see you in the next videos where we will talk about more things in Power BI Desktop. Or I would also be happy to welcome you in my Power BI A Complete Introduction Udemy course. You can find the link to that course at a discount price down there in the video description. However, this is it for the moment. Thanks a lot for watching and see you next time.